Choreb Beruach, Sword of the Spirit. Interpreted and narrated by Wendy. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Paro dreamed, and behold, he stood by a river. And looking, there came up out of the river 7 attractive and fattened heifers, and they fed among the reeds. Then, behold, another 7 heifers came up after them out of the river, unattractive and lean. Moreover, they stood by the other heifers upon the bank of the river. Also, the unattractive and lean heifers ate the 7 attractive and fattened heifers. Then Paro awoke. Furthermore, he slept and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 heads of grain came up upon one good and sturdy stalk. Then, behold, 7 thin heads of grain, blighted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin heads of grain devoured the 7 sturdy and full heads of grain. Then Paro awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim, and all the wise men of it. And Paro told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for Paro. Then the captain of cupbearing spoke to Paro, saying, "This day I remember my folly." Paro was wroth with his servants, and put us in custody at the house of the captain of executions, the captain of baking, and I. And one night he and I dreamed a dream. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. Also there was a young man with us, an Ivri servant to the captain of executions. Furthermore, he told him and interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored to my office, and him he hanged. Therefore Paro sent and called Yusuf, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he was shaved, and his garments were changed. Then he came unto Paro. And Paro said to Yusuf, "I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. And I have heard said of you that you can understand a dream, to interpret it." However, Yusuf answered Paro, saying, "It is not in me. Elohim will give Paro a satisfactory answer." Therefore Paro said to Yusuf, "In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And lo, there came up out of the river 7 heifers, attractive and fattened, and they fed among the reeds. And behold, another 7 heifers came up after them, unattractive and lean, such as I have never seen in all the land of Mitzrayim for badness. Then the lean and unattractive heifers ate the first 7 fat heifers. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still unattractive, as at the beginning. Then I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and lo, 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 heads of grain, withered, thin, blighted by the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin heads of grain devoured the 7 good heads. Furthermore, I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could declare it for me. Then Yusuf said to Paro, "The dreams of Paro are connected. Elohim has showed Paro what he is about to do. The 7 good heifers are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. The dreams are united. Moreover, the 7 thin and unattractive heifers that came up after them, and the 7 empty heads blasted with the east wind, are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I will speak to Paro. What Elohim is about to do, he shows to Paro. Behold, there is coming 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Mitzrayim, and there will arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Mitzrayim, and the famine will consume the land. However, the plenty in the land will not be known for facing the famine that follows, for it will be very grievous. Also, the reason the dream was repeated twice to Paro is because this word is established by Elohim, and Elohim will bring it to pass shortly. Now, therefore, let Paro seek out a discreet and wise man, and set him over the land of Mitzrayim. Let Paro do this. Also, let him appoint officers over the land, and take up a 5th part from the land of Mitzrayim during the 7 years of plenty, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up grain under the hand of Paro. Moreover, let them keep food in the cities, and the food will be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine, which will be in the land of Mitzrayim, so that the land does not perish through the famine. Therefore the word was good in the eyes of Paro, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Paro said to his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Ruach of Elohim? Then Paro said to Yusuf, Forasmuch as Elohim has showed you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you. You will be over my house, and according to your word, all my people will be ruled. Only in the throne I will be greater than you. Therefore Paro said to Yusuf, Behold, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. Then Paro took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Yusuf's hand. Also he arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the 2nd chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him a ruler over all the land of Mitzrayim. Then Paro said to Yusuf, I am Paro, but without you no man will lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. Furthermore, Paro called Yusuf's name Zapenat Penaach, and he gave to him Asenat to wife, the daughter of Buthipara, priest of Aun. And Yusuf went out over all the land of Mitzrayim.